All right, so let's get started. Excited to be here today with you all. This webinar is brought to you by the Nonprofit and Global Organizations team and the Esri Hub team. We are really ecstatic about bringing you guys some exciting work on the forefront of GIS today, and hope you enjoy this webinar. We all encourage you to check out more of the work in the future on our nonprofit website, which can be found on the nonprofit page at Esri.com. And to kick it off here, we're going to move ahead and talk about ArcGIS Hub and open data. So today, a lot of people are working towards sharing and fostering community practice and making use of their investments in GIS data, particularly in the nonprofit and global organization space. I'm from the Nonprofit and Global Organizations team. My name is Charles Brigham. I'm going to be hosting today's webinar for you all. I'm an account manager. I focus on sustainable development, humanitarian and conservation, and other work around nonprofit and global organizations. We're bringing you some of the brightest minds of the GIS world today with some of our speakers. I think both of these speakers are very tenured in their understanding of sustainable development, community, open data, and bringing real world examples to you all so you can see a tangible approach of how Open Data Hub is affecting organizations' work. These people's name are, as you can see here, Andrew Turner, Director and CTO for Esri's R&D DC office, Adam Pfister, a solution engineer on the Nonprofit and Global Organizations team, and they'll be bringing you guys the great content today. Looking at the agenda, we're going to give you guys an overview of ArcGIS Hub and open data, provide a demonstration on a number of the great work that nonprofit and global organizations are doing, and provide you with a roadmap for ArcGIS Hub. We'll wrap it up with some overviews on the approaches we're seeing today and in the future, and provide a Q&A. And hopefully we'll receive a number of really good questions we can address. I want to just emphasize, if you have questions, please provide those questions in the panel you see on your screen, and we'll look at them at the end of the webinar, and please stay on so we can touch base on those. I'm going to now turn it over to Andrew to kick it off on the real substance of the webinar. I really hope everybody enjoys. Andrew, take it away.
Thanks, Charles. I appreciate that. So I want to give some context for ArcGIS Hub and how it fits into the broader ArcGIS ecosystem, and then I'll dive through a number of the different capabilities and opportunities you have to use it in your work and your mission. So ArcGIS is a platform for data and geospatial management, visualization, and it has a lot of different tools that you can use in your work as an individual, as an organization, as a group, or as a community. We help provide technology for systems of record, for managing databases and data tables, working in terms of gathering that, ensuring its quality, analyzing it, and disseminating it. We provide systems of insight for performing and sharing these analyses with one another, visualizing the data, drilling deeper into understanding what's going on and measuring that over time. And what really brings these pieces of technology analytics together is a system of engagement. It's collaborating with colleagues, with peers, with stakeholders, with the community at large, the public, and other organizations as well, in terms of sharing data between one another, finding commonalities of integration for these data, analyses, surveys and feedback, and so on. And we look at this in terms of ArcGIS providing a meaningful, accurate, and maintainable system to serve all of these different purposes in the different work you do day to day. And one thing we've been seeing, though, is organizations which have a public front face, a website, a policy, display, different reports and publications, and then they might have different ways to analyze and share their data. ArcGIS Online, ArcGIS or Enterprise are two great examples of those. But often there's a gap between these, between the mission and the vision, and then there's the operation. And so what we've seen over time is organizations who want to fill this gap, who want to build a bridge between this. And they want to provide tools to inform their stakeholders on their plans and their goals and their timelines for different projects. They want to listen from their stakeholders in their communities. What's working well? What could be used and improved? Where should we be doing that work? And providing those through different dynamic feedback systems. And then finally, monitoring that impact over time, setting that goal, hearing and listening to the feedback, and then seeing, are we meeting our goals, and how do we iterate more quickly to achieve these goals more efficiently and effectively? To support that system of engagement, to really fill that bridge between the data management and the vision, we built ArcGIS Hub. This is a capability that extends ArcGIS to provide open data for sharing out data freely to constituents for downloading and exploring the data. It helps organize people not just around data, but also around missions and projects that we call initiatives. So teams that gather around a common goal with best practices who engage with the community to accomplish these things together. And then integrating a lot of different tools such as story maps, surveys, dashboards together to provide community portals where the community can engage and explore that information that makes most sense to them near their house, near their places of interest, and then provide that feedback. And then ways to measure that performance over time. And the people who can use Hub really applies to all kinds of organizations, whether they're national governments, local nonprofits, multinational organizations, for-profits, and so on. We've seen some amazing examples that we'll share a few with you, and we encourage you to explore more on your own. So ArcGIS Hub, our goal is to transform how organizations engage and collaborate with their communities by focusing on these goal-driven initiatives. Not just saying, here are the data, but here's what we're trying to accomplish, and here's how the data are measuring that over time. And what we've seen in these communities is there's a broad swath of people who want to be active in achieving these goals. There are your staff or your employees and contractors who might be working day to day on this mission. You have potential collaborators who want to volunteer or participate or maybe change their patterns of behavior to also accomplish this goal. You then have people who are eager to engage, at least be aware of it, maybe espouse those common best practices, and finally you have the general public at large. And people at different paths or steps along the spectrum have different levels of engagement they want to provide. And what we found is that these initiatives, rather than saying, well, we're all trying to do this, make the world a better place, we can focus with initiatives towards specific actions and activities, whether it's improving a local park, whether it's working in terms of preserving or sustaining wildlife, whether it's sustainable agriculture practices or so on. It's these initiatives really focus them down in terms of what staff are working on, finding collaborators who can be trusted to support this work, to the actively engaged public, and at least then informing people around a common goal that they might also share, and then really helping drive these people along this path. And then what's great is these initiatives then expand your team. They help you not just be aware of it, but actually do useful work. Whether that's crowdsourcing surveys and gathering up data about what's going on the ground hour by hour and day by day, having discussions to generate new ideas from this public, and then actually working with these trusted collaborators that are outside your organization to co-create solutions, whether that's running events, whether it's analyzing areas of opportunity for investment or activity, or it's even helping make decisions and monitor the progress over time and help work together on those goals. The way ArcGIS Hub works is it extends your GIS. So whether you are using ArcGIS today or you're interested in using it, it really helps and integrates this all together. So first off, you have data services, which you're sharing out via web APIs, which are easily accessible and usable in a number of different tools. ArcGIS Enterprise is our solution for deploying on your own to manage these data services, which can integrate with ArcGIS Online, which is just open up a web browser and you have access to a full GIS, nothing to install. ArcGIS Hub extends that, and you have ArcGIS Hub today if you have ArcGIS Online. You go to the app launcher, you click the button, you're in there, and you're starting to create Hub sites, and you can optionally share open data. But I want to highlight, you can also create these sites that are internal and private to build collaboration with internal teams and stakeholders. Now, we also have this capability in ArcGIS Enterprise, if you use that, called ArcGIS Enterprise Sites. So it has these same capabilities you can use if you need to do that. It's also really fascinating to consider that while you have your own data, you often work with partners who have their own data services. These sites can integrate those data services from those partners, and it keeps the data live from that source. So even right from a data sharing perspective, it's easy to use. In less than an hour, I've seen organizations launch their first Hub site and get going, sharing data and engaging with their community. But what's really interesting, what we really are excited about and talk to you more about here is we've extended that with what we call ArcGIS Hub with premium capabilities. And it's something you can optionally add on, which provides a lot of additional capabilities. Initiative, project management, community identities, so people are not just anonymous, but they actually have identities and profiles. You can manage events, you can launch dashboards. People can follow initiatives to get notified of new activities, new events. So it's a way to also do relationship management. You can have teams for collaborating on sharing content, integrate with a large number of integrated configurable applications, and then different tools for feedback and discussions. And we've seen an amazing success. Since we launched ArcGIS Hub in 2014, we've had organizations around the world launch this. In fact, over 4,000 hub sites have been created that are public, and many more that are currently private. You can see here just a quick global map of where there are hub sites being launched at local locations along certain natural resources, countrywide, continent-wide, ocean-wide, and so on. And so you can search, and we'll share the link out afterwards, to a story map that allows you to explore a number of different highlighted hubs around the world. Or if you go to hub.arcgis.com, we have a gallery where you can kind of explore a number of different hubs there to see what real organizations are doing right now using ArcGIS Hub to engage with the community with data dashboards and feedback tools. I'll just highlight a few examples here, and my colleague Adam will dive more in some live examples. But we worked with the US Department of Agriculture, who is starting to share out and disseminate open data. And one thing is you can launch as many hub sites as you want to. So they started creating a few focused around different aspects of their mission. So foreign agriculture services, agriculture collaboratives, and so on. And these were very much just data sharing websites, kind of unidirectional. They wanted to go further and actually engage and co-create and collaborate with the community with Hub Premium. So they started launching initiatives. In this case, there's a national effort to have employees work in their local community to help feed families in need. They do harvest gleaning to take up additional fruits and vegetables. They gather up donations, and they create food banks in their regions to engage and provide this service. And they used ArcGIS Hub to actually, one, promote the idea, inform people, not just the mission of healthy diets and healthy eating and good agriculture, but actually engage them around a specific topic that they can look at their neighborhoods and see what's going on through upcoming events. They can offer to donate food or donate funds, donate their time. They can participate. They can help glean farms or man the booths. There's a calendar of events. They integrate with different partners, and they actually integrate with social media. They can even drill in more, and this is all integrated together. These tools are just at your fingertips to launch these things. They can monitor progress over time. So literally at the event, as they weighed food, they could put that into a survey, and this dashboard was a live count per every event about how much food was gathered and donated away. And also create an archive over time to see how performance, how did people donate in different regions or uptake the food. How did that vary by even things like weather, how they advertise. So they can really start understanding what was going to increase the efficacy of their program. And they use story maps integrated to really tell the story of the success, to highlight and recognize people who had done a great mission, and also encourage others to start stepping up and volunteering as well. And this is something that they launch every summer and is ongoing, and they use ArcGIS Hub to facilitate and manage this. And again, they use surveys for people that want to start either sharing their feedback or also participate, and they can register their interest as well as where they'd like to volunteer. Another example is the United Nations and member states have started the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs. Now, the UN is looking globally around the SDGs, around how to improve maternal health, reduce or end poverty, access to education, and so on. But while they can set the global goals, it really takes local action, and it takes the participation of countries, cities, nonprofits, and every community working together to accomplish these goals. So what they've done is they've used ArcGIS Hub to create a global SDG sharing site where anybody can go and find data and find out about the mission, but then different countries are creating their own hubs. They're sharing out their own mission and vision and data around what's going on in their country to really promote then local action. And they integrate all together, and they have data sharing. So if you just want to participate in SDGs, you can go and grab and use the data here or participate in the global or regional hubs. We're also seeing individual cities and communities and neighborhoods also start participating. Rio de Janeiro is using ArcGIS Hub to engage with their residents and localities to also try and accomplish these goals, to share out what the goals are about, that these are something that affects them and their neighbors day to day, and both the importance as well as the opportunity for them to collaborate and participate. So what they can do is they can share out surveys to hear from residents about what's most important to them and what they want to volunteer and participate in. So they can learn about what's the efficacy of their information sharing, as well as what the opportunity is for participation and activity by local people. And they can then monitor those results over time. So they can see the impact and efficacy of those things across the whole city, as well as even by individual neighborhoods. So the way this works is that your staff utilize ArcGIS Online to launch sites to engage with the anonymous public, but then those initiatives to subscribe to notifications. Volunteers can then come and help run events. They can, like you saw with the gleanings, they can start participating or even volunteer to run new events in the future, and they can reach those hard to reach communities. Because not everyone's necessarily going to use a website or web application, but there are volunteers who will encourage and participate with them to help them get that information. And then you can choose to bring those volunteers, those unpaid staff, those collaborators in to actually participate with these, to create events, to create sites, to create surveys, and help monitor those over time so they can really become part of your workforce. And you can also engage with external stakeholders, sharing maybe more sensitive information or planning information to verify it's going to work with them before maybe launching it publicly. So I've talked a lot about the mission and vision of it. I'm actually going to now hand it over to my colleague, Adam Pfister, who's going to give you more in-depth demonstrations of what this actually looks and feels like, so you can actually get a better sense of what Hub does.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. And what I'd like to do is just walk through a simple demonstration using ArcGIS Hub and Open Data, how to set up a site, go through some of the editing process of what that site would look like and how you could lay it out, and then show you an example related back to the Sustainable Development Goals that Andrew showed you previously. So like we mentioned, the ArcGIS Hub gives you the ability to go right now into your organization and within ArcGIS Online and start creating sites and tie that to your data. So you can see that I am signed in using my organizational account, and I'm at hub.arcgis.com. And simply I can just go to my overview page, which allows me to look at from a high-level overview of what's going on within my hub and my organization. I can take a look at the content library. I can see who I am engaging with within the community, as well as look at any events that are going on. But for our cases, we'll just start and we'll create a new site or a new initiative. And we'll call this SDGs for the webinar. And as I create this, what it's going to do is behind the scenes, it'll create a group in ArcGIS Online that will allow you to pick and choose any data set you want to participate in this site. And that's really an important point that we would want to stress here is you have complete control over what data you designate to be quote unquote open. And what that means is if you share a group very simply with a few checkboxes, you can share data into this group that we just created for our site, and anything that then is in that group will appear as being public. So you, again, have fine-grained control over what gets shared and what doesn't. So after that's created, it immediately drops me into the site editor experience. And the site editor experience is a configuration drag and drop experience in which you can take some text here and you can say, actually, I want to create a site that is focused on life below water and life on land. And we'll get rid of this subtitle. But the text card here is something that's pretty powerful. You can actually go into the code behind it and drop it in any HTML and CSS to extend it a little bit. But of course, you have rich text editing controls like you would get from any other text editing system. So we'll save that there. I actually like this ability to have a banner image, but I don't want it to be the city. I think I want to have it be something that's a little bit more appropriate for what we want to do for life below water and life on land. And for this row, you can see I've got a couple different options about the text color, the background color. I can reference a URL for an image, or I can very simply drag and drop an image onto the page. it'll upload it for me, and that'll become my new background. And I can choose to have a few different things. Maybe I want to mute the background a little bit, make it a little bit more subtle, change the focal point, and so on. So as I've got my title, I've got my background image sets, you can see there's a place to put your mission statement here. If I want to change this to be something that's a little bit more appropriate for what we're trying to do, I can do that. Again, I don't want an image for this, but maybe I want to change the background color so that it's something maybe like that. And you can adjust all of this information to be in line with if you have your own branding, if you have your own policies for that. So if I want to add something to this page, you can see I've got, again, some statistic cards, some text cards that are added by default. If I wanted to add more to the page, I would go to my layout option here on the sidebar. And here are all the options I can use to drop onto the page. If I want more text, if I want to embed a map or a chart, I can do that as well. But let's say we want to give the users the ability to search for data. So I'll drag and drop a search bar onto the page. And you get a little preview of what the users will be able to do with that search bar. We'll make it a little bit longer. We'll give it some placeholder text. It says search for data. Search for data. And then that's now on the page. So since we're focusing on life below water and life on land, what we want to do is we want to give people the ability to search for data for those two particular sustainable development goals. Now, if you have data that you'd like to put in here, you can certainly use your own data set. And I've gone to the groups manager. We can see we've got our automatically created group. And actually, I know where the UN's group sits. This is coming directly from their own site, and they have one group per goal. So I'll add in goal 14 and goal 15, which are for life below water and life on land. So not only can you bring in data that you have, but you can also bring in data that's publicly available that anybody else is publishing as open data. So now we have our 3 selected groups. I'll go back to the site editor. And we can actually make this search experience a little bit easier for our users. So we'll give them the ability to search by free text, but we can also drop in this thing called a category card. The category card gives the users the ability to click directly on the link and tie that to a specific group. So we'll call this goal 14, and we'll say the search results will come directly from that goal 14 group. And then we can provide a URL, and in this case, we'll just grab the icon for the goal. So now we have goal 14 there, and let's add another one for goal 15. And we'll tie that to goal 15 here, the group. And we will finish it off with a nice polished icon. And we'll go ahead and save. And then we'll just add a few more elements to the page. So since we're talking about life below water and we want to get people engaged, one thing we may want to present to them on this page, in addition to being able to search by data, is to let them actually add things that are impactful or engaging with the community. So I just added a video card, and I'm going to pull in a video that the African Parks put together for the user conference at the Esri user conference just this summer. This is a fantastic video. I highly recommend you go watch it if you're interested at all in conservation. But for now, you can actually take any video, drop in the link, and that will embed it right within the page. So users can view the video while staying on your hub site. And you can also do the same thing with just about any content from the web. So I'll drag this iframe card, and I'll actually pull in this Global Ocean Health Index application. This is an operations dashboard, and it allows you to look at the health of the ocean by various indices, looking at the trend score, and getting information about the different areas of the ocean. So I can actually take the iframe put the URL code there. Maybe I want to make this a little bit higher so the users can have the ability to scroll and work with the application. And that's embedded right within the site. So now you've seen a few ways, a few examples on how users could come in and, or how you could create your own site, how you could add content to a site. Now I'd like to show you an example of an initiative related to the SDGs that's a little bit more fleshed out. So we've had this one created as we talk to different people that want to get started in doing some work around the Sustainable Development Goals, whether it's in conservation, whether it's in looking at the great information about ocean life, or making sure our water is clean, or gender equality. The ArcGIS Hub allows you a great entry point for getting something up and running and engaging with your community. So this is a templated site. Again, you see a nice banner image at the top. We're actually using something called a gallery card here to say, pull in some story maps from a particular group in ArcGIS Online. So you could have a group in ArcGIS Online that is only housing story maps, and that can be used to dynamically pull in here. So you don't have to manage these one by one, you just hook this up to that group. And you can say, I want it to be only applications, only show 4 at a time. And then as users interact with this, they'll see some of these applications or story maps. And again, you can see we're using some of the search capabilities, the category cards, and we actually have a subpage here for this particular site. So in addition to creating sites, you can also have pages that live underneath them. So we've made one page here specifically for the SDGs. So if we go to here, it's the exact same editing experience. You can see the tiles for each one, and you can see that they're tied to a specific group if you'd like to have them there. And it's a nice sort of filtering way and letting your users navigate to the data kind of at their own pace. And one thing I did want to show you is to show you the events capabilities. So this is going a little bit beyond the ability to just create sites and pages. You can actually create events with team members, or create events with the public, and essentially let people register their attendance or their interest in attending those particular events. That page is very simple. You can create an image, a title, some description. Make sure you know if you have sponsors for an event, you can add them in here so that they're properly recognized. You can say if this is an in-person, online, or both type of event where it's happening. And then, fix the capacity or leave it unlimited, and of course, the date and time. So I've gone ahead and created 2 of these events. And if you want to actually put them into your site, let's go back to the site. There are special cards that you can use to drop them in. So I'll go to my layout section, and I will add a featured event card. So here, we have an ability to select one event that we want to highlight. So in this case, since we're doing the webinar today, let's highlight this particular webinar. So I didn't have to do any custom work with any HTML or iframes. I actually just dropped the featured event card onto the page and said, hey, show it this one. And now you can actually include a list too. So the other card is called the upcoming events card. And you can see it's got a little calendar there along with the upcoming events that you have. So this is a really great way to let your community know about your particular event. They can click on the event, and each event has its own mini description page where it can be shared. You can launch directly. You can choose to follow or unfollow the event as the user if you register your interest, and then you will be following that event and notified of any updates. So that was a quick tour of ArcGIS Hub, the site editor, as well as some of the more extended capabilities about using initiatives, events. And I hope you liked it, and I would please encourage you to reach out more to us if you have any more questions or would like more information. And I think now I'll turn it back to Andrew, and he will talk to us about the roadmap coming forward with ArcGIS Hub.
Thanks, Adam. So I want to talk about just a few salient upcoming capabilities we have for Hub. There's a lot more planned. This is just a small example. So one thing we have support for are these initiative templates that allow you to rapidly launch kind of common patterns for initiatives. There's also capability for you to design and build your own. So if you find yourself launching the same project many times and you want to follow standard practice for website layouts, surveys, dashboards, you can design your own templates. So we launched a number around common municipal best practices, and we're going to start launching some more around general best practices about crowdsourcing projects, a few around election transparency, and so on. So just more tools to get you jump started and make it quick for you to get to your work using these tools, as well as the ability to create your own. And if you have ideas, we'd love to hear from you about co-creating initiatives. One goal here is that we really want to help the community share best practices with one another. So we're seeing this happen for the United Nations SDGs, for example. They're helping design these SDG goal and target focused templates that would help other people jumpstart on the different SDGs. Another capability we're going to be rolling out are initiative teams. Currently, you have one team, the initiative core team, that manages all of the content. But we've learned that a lot of organizations, when they're running an initiative, that they want to bring in different teams of stakeholders, whether they're executive management, donors, or other stakeholders, or trained volunteers that get privileged access to maybe a few aspects of the initiative, such as a survey or a dashboard, and teams will help them manage that. We're leveraging a really powerful surveying capability called Survey 123 that's available in ArcGIS, and we're integrating that more deeply into Hub to really help you configure and launch based on best practices for surveys, as well as help analyze those survey results and design and build cohorts of volunteers or participants around these surveys to really not only manage and launch surveys, but understand the equitability of the respondents and the impact that has to your mission. We're building community messaging and notifications, helping people who do follow these initiatives or register for events stay up to date with new data that are released, updates to those things, as well as be able to ask questions and converse back and forth between one another through utilizing Hub and the initiatives. You're probably familiar with a lot of our map making tools that you have at your fingertips to launch and create maps, and we're integrating that into Hub as well with the new JavaScript API capabilities that are performant and have some amazing visualization techniques. ArcGIS Hub will start allowing the community to utilize those same technologies themselves to explore and understand data, answer their own personal questions, and then collaborate with you on those insights they might have around your initiatives. And then lastly, coming up later this year is integrated content management. So ArcGIS allows you to upload data or publish it using desktop tools or APIs. We're just simplifying that workflow and integrating it into initiatives such that you can then, through initiative teams and the community, crowdsource some of that content, whether it's certain stakeholders uploading spreadsheets of data and geocoding it, whether it's the public sharing out documents and other data, that integrating that into the entire workflow to simplify it for you, but also engage with a broader community of people. In early 2020, we're working on more team messaging, so having individual teams be able to communicate and collaborate with one another, and also permissions for enabling certain team members to perform activities such as creating events, managing responses, and managing some perhaps privileged data. We've also seen as organizations have launched large hubs with hundreds of initiatives as they want to be able to nest them together to have sub-initiatives. So they might have a larger overall project, such as improving the ecology of a region, but they might then have specific aspects about improving a specific trail or improving signage or engaging with certain volunteer communities. So realizing that there may be many teams and projects that support an overall initiative goal. We're building in better permission management and roles, so it's easier to say what are trusted collaborators, different kinds of engaged public participants, and even the public at large. So different ways to just manage those. So you're ensuring that people have access to the appropriate information and tools without necessarily inadvertently sharing out data that you shouldn't be. So really simplifying and improving that process. And lastly, community discussions, providing tools where the community can provide ideas, geographically or not, ways to moderate those things for you to ensure that the discussion is high quality and meaningful, but also be able to glean insights from that information about general trends on inputs and ideas that you can use to improve your own work. And there's a number of different capabilities we're also looking at in adding to Hub. We're also constantly improving overall just the usability and the workflow of the tools we have there. So definitely you can stay tuned to our blog and our Twitter for updates about new features as they're released or as they're coming up. And we also, if you're really interested, we have what's called the Hub User Lab, which you can sign up for because you might want to participate in beta access to certain features, which gives you early access, and we would want to hear from you about what's useful or could be improved by any of those features. So either you can just passively wait for it to show up, or you can get really actively involved in helping shape the future of Hub and how it supports communities and your missions. So I think if we have any questions here, just one quick action to follow up from this webinar. Again, if you have ArcGIS Online today, you can start using Hub. You can start creating sites and pages like Adam showed you to really get a feel for it, or start just sharing out your data and your information with your community. And if you're interested to know more about what's possible with Hub Premium for initiatives and teams, community feedback and accounts, there's a number of different ways to get access to it through the nonprofit program or other packages that you can talk to your account manager to find out more information, or email the nonprofit team with Charles and Adam's emails here below. Charles or Adam, is there anything else you want to add to that?
Sure. Well, thanks, Andrew. That was excellent. I think that gave us a good overview of what's coming. And I do want to address some of the questions here. The number of different questions from different users, a broad spectrum actually. So maybe if I can ask Adam and Andrew to chime in on some of these questions. I do want to start with maybe one of the earlier questions on how, we have an earlier question from Bradford about how to engage and understand how to get access to Hub through different partners. So let's start with Bradford's question. Bradford, if you could just reach out to us here, we'd be happy to facilitate that discussion. And that's around whether it's Esri partners or nonprofits. We'd be happy to help you with that. So addressing Bradford's question specifically, please reach out to us post webinar and we can follow up. The next question we have is coming from Sean Stasio, who I want to shout and say hello to, but on recurring events. He's tenured GIS user. I want to maybe pass that question to Andrew, if you don't mind, Andrew.
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. That's something that, simple answer, it's not currently supported. We're definitely looking at, would want to support something, and we'd love to hear more from you. So I might follow up with you to ask you some more questions about that, because we want to make sure recurring events can obviously get very, very tricky. So we want to provide that capability for you, but understand a little more about what you want to accomplish with that to make sure it's solving the right problem there. So it's a really good question, definitely something we'd love to know more about, and we'll follow up with you on that. I'll try to take a few of the next ones because I think I can probably help answer them. So, well, thank you, about going beyond mapping. So, I often joke that just because it's geographic doesn't mean it's cartographic. So we do obviously a ton of mapping. We think maps are amazing, but there's a lot of work we want to do to really, as I mentioned at the very beginning, to encourage collaboration between people to accomplish then those geographic goals and mission. In regards to the data privacy, and especially with the federal government, so yeah, we work extensively with the US federal government as well as with many other national governments, generally as ArcGIS, as well as ArcGIS Hub is being used by probably about a dozen US federal agencies and probably a few dozen national agencies and countries around the world. So what we do in a number of different cases, and this actually goes to the other question around ArcGIS Server. So yes, ArcGIS Hub is fully integrated with the rest of ArcGIS. So ArcGIS Server that's managed on-premise is definitely integrated as a first-class citizen. So that's one way that people deal with data privacy, is they use ArcGIS Server and they install that locally to manage their data in-house in their own data centers, and then choose to share out and link the data through ArcGIS Enterprise, to use ArcGIS Enterprise sites, or ArcGIS Online to use ArcGIS Hub and Online with either views or subsets of that data. There's also, with ArcGIS Online, there's compliance with a number of different federal restrictions, and ArcGIS Hub is moving towards supporting those as well. And then, do you ever come to LA? I assume that means Los Angeles. For those of you that aren't aware, Esri's headquarters is based in Redlands, California, which is just a little bit east of Los Angeles. So our team, we do have a number of people who actually live or in LA or visit there very often. So maybe that's something we can follow up with you, Karen. So the next question, does the hub consume credits? So there's a little bit to be aware of if you know what credits are and how ArcGIS works. I think that I'll highlight here briefly. So credits, if you're not aware, is a way in which we provide a way to do utility-based pricing for your different services that you might use. So credits you might use for hosting data, and it's only used for the size of the data that are hosted. It's not used with ArcGIS Online services for the amount of data that are consumed. So a data set that's 100 rows takes probably a half credit a year or something, or even thousands of rows. It's pretty low in the credit usage, but it can be used 1 billion times. There's no change to credits there. You also use credits for analytics and geocoding if you store the result. So ArcGIS Hub actually does two things. It does manage all of your authoritative data inside your organization. And so if you are using ArcGIS Online hosted services to host your data, then yes, that continues to use credits to host those data. Although if you share the data out to your community, whether even internally, privately, or to the public, there's no additional credit usage for the amount of people using it. So making that feature service public through ArcGIS Hub and available for downloads can be used 1 billion times, and there's no change in your credit usage there. As well as ArcGIS Hub doesn't use any of your analytics credits behind the scenes either. But ArcGIS Hub does also add with ArcGIS Hub Premium to manage the community identities and the user accounts. That actually ArcGIS Hub Premium adds another organization. And that other organization is paired with your primary or your staff organization. And what's great about that is it ensures that the community who create accounts and the community who contribute content are all managed completely independently in its own data management system from your enterprise or your staff content. So it ensures that all the data you're sharing with your organization, the user accounts that you're sharing, the analytics credits and data hosting credits, all managed in that staff organization that you're using today. And the ArcGIS Hub Premium Community Organization is that doesn't consume credits. It's managed independently and has its own user management and its own data storage there for the community content. So it kind of really makes those things independent. And as you talk to your account manager, we get you more details about that. So really, there's no additional credit usage simply for just using Hub. And there's a lot of different techniques we do to really help ensure that it's a good, you follow best practices and it scales with you without necessarily consuming those additional credits. So let me drill in a little bit more, or just make sure I cover the next question about, is ArcGIS Hub integrated to ArcGIS Server or just ArcGIS Online subscription? I think maybe there's a couple aspects of this. So ArcGIS Hub itself that provides the initiatives and the sites in ArcGIS Online is part of ArcGIS Online. And then there's just the site building capability if you need it on-premise that you can deploy with ArcGIS Enterprise. Both of those integrate with ArcGIS Server, which is the data management tool. So the integrating with relational databases and serving out web APIs, that's ArcGIS Server. And you can use that on-premise, or you can use that in ArcGIS Online, and Hub works with, and sites work with either of those scenarios. At that point, they're just web URLs. If you did it, we're asking about, is ArcGIS Hub integrated essentially into like ArcGIS Enterprise in terms of being able to deploy it into your server? Not at this point. That's just the ArcGIS sites capability. So great, we've had a lot of different organizations launching even public open data sites using ArcGIS Enterprise sites because they needed to manage all of the data systems entirely inside their own servers, and you can do that today. But if you want the community accounts and the event management, that's only in online. And then the last question I see here is it possible to create a multilingual site with ArcGIS Hub, or is it necessary to create different sites, one per language? It's a good question. So ArcGIS Hub, as its default interface, is actually translated into over 30 languages. So we automatically translate that UI into all of those languages, including right to left as well as left to right languages. But the content itself, as you're pointing out, that's only in the language in which you write it. And the way that we've seen several patterns to do this. One of the best ways to do it is you can have one site, but you might have a different version of a page. So you have your home page in one language, and you have that home page as a different site page in the other language, and you can link to those. And there's a lot of governments which require multilingual, and that's one pattern that people have done, is creating those additional pages to do that. Similar, there's different techniques. There's actually a blog post that was written by one of our partners that talked even about having multilingual data. and different best practices for managing multilingual data in Hub sites that we can share after this as well. We are looking at different ways to improve that. We want to make that as simple a practice as possible for you to do that, but we'd love to hear from you more. Maybe we'll follow up about that again with our user lab about how you would like to manage that multilingual content.
Thanks, Andrew.
You're welcome.
I think you addressed most of those. Is there any other comments from you, Adam, you want to put forward?
No, I think that they're all addressed, and appreciate the questions.
Excellent. I think we have only a few minutes left, so I just want to emphasize for everybody, for us to keep moving these webinars forward and keep having them. We encourage you to fill out the survey at the end once we stop presenting for the webinar. Maybe with that, we can wrap it up. But we really thank everyone for joining us here. We hope to talk to you offline, and stay tuned for more as things progress. Thank you all.